Hello, my name is Brian Krogsgard, and I am privileged to sit next to Mendel Kurland today. We are in Vienna, Austria.
Yeah.
A beautiful country that's blowing this cool breeze on me right now, which I welcome because it's about 90 degrees. And we're sitting in the courtyard outside WordCamp Europe 2016, and it's the afternoon of the first day.
That was a good intro.
Thank you.
That was a solid intro.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
To WordPress.
To WordPress. To open source.
To open source.
You don't have to give me the entire story, right? But I am curious how you got into WordPress or open source, or how you just got excited about technology in general.
Well, I was born December 30th, 1985.
Okay.
And from there, I had a lifelong journey that led me straight to WordPress.
Straight to WordPress.
Well, straight many different times.
Okay. All right.
So you end up curving.
Yeah.
No, I got into the web because I had ideas for websites in college.
Yeah.
And I found out that my ideas were not very good, but making a website was within reach, even for someone like me who didn't have programming experience. I was able to find solutions on the internet for how to make a website. I wanted to create essentially a culture website or something like that at my school, and then later actually in the town that I lived in, because I felt like the websites that existed weren't very good. And I had this desire to create something and then put content on it that other people would read.
So like a lifestyle magazine or something like that?
Yeah, kind of like that, but from a university. You know who majored in industrial engineering at Auburn?
Who's that?
Tim Cook.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, you know who that is?
I've heard of him.
He's pretty successful.
Yeah, I've heard of him. So
he was in my department. We had the same statistics teacher, I'm pretty sure.
Really? So so you're saying that you are set up for world domination then?
No, I'm not saying that.
You're implying it, but you're not saying it.
I didn't say that. But yeah, so Auburn was a great school. But I was interested in writing stuff. I don't know why. At some point in life, I got a bug that I just wanted to write stuff. I hated English reading and writing when I was younger, and that's why I did more of a math-based education.
Was there a particular type of writing you enjoyed?
I didn't know yet. Like I said, I mean, these were ideas that, like most bad plans, I started with the technical implementation instead of the concept and actually doing some writing and figuring out if it was sustainable, those types of things. Unfortunately for the sites, but fortunately it kind of led me down this path of discovering that building websites was pretty cool. And then I started writing about WordPress because I had this bug to write. I didn't really have anything to write about these other topics, but I started writing about WordPress and what I was learning, and I kind of slowly just got more and more into that space, and that's how I got into both writing and developing.
What types of things were you writing? Was it tutorials and things like that, or what?
The first WordPress posts I wrote were on my personal blog because I didn't know where else to put stuff like that. And I think one of them, it was right around WordPress 3.0, and I think I said something like WordPress 3.0 rocks or something. And I just wrote a little bit about what was new in WordPress. It was like my first release post, which now I do every release. And so a few weeks later, I was writing something, and the blaze was on WordPress, and I thought that was really cool. And I wrote a little thing about it, and I emailed it to Ryan Himmel, and I said, hey, I don't know if you'd be interested in this, but I just wrote it. I have no idea where I would put it. You have WP Candy. Do you want it there?
You had an audience, right?
Yeah. So I think that was the first one that I published on WP Candy. Can't remember exactly. That definitely happened though. And then kind of started this let's write newsy type of stuff. And that's where a lot of relationships started for me, of getting to know some of the people that I was writing about.
How did you get to know somebody? Did you call them up and did you say, or send them an email, go to their contact?
Well, back then, Twitter was started, and WordPress people were on Twitter, and that might start some conversations.
Yeah.
But eventually, it was usually through getting someone's Skype contact, and then you might just kind of maintain some form of relationship through Skype. It was pre-Slack. IRC existed, but IRC was mostly used by core people. Yeah. Whereas Slack now is more ubiquitous, and more people are using Slack for all things. So if you want to go message somebody, you'll probably just message them in some Slack that you're both in.
Right. So were people in the community pretty willing to talk to you? Were they excited about the fact that you were writing about it? Were they a little apprehensive or nervous or anything like that?
It was similar to today, except there was less news, less going on.
Okay.
So, I mean, you would write about what are today more mundane things, like you might write about a new theme release or a new update to a theme, or smaller business ideas than exist today. Now, the business things that exist especially are much bigger. So covering every theme release would be ridiculous because there's hundreds of them a week or something. The community's grown a ton over the years, but because I started to get involved at a relatively early stage for the WordPress commercial ecosystem, I was able to get to know a lot of the people that were getting these businesses going.
Some of the content that you created on your personal blog, and you were blogging about things that were happening in the WordPress community. Did any of those articles make their way to Post Status?
No, I think the articles that I wrote on my personal blog are probably still there.
Oh, okay. All right.
I may have forwarded one or two technical articles to something else because they were bad or something, but actually the first blogging I ever did that got any traction was about Alabama politics.
Okay.
And I had started my own blog. This was prior or around the same time of the WordPress blogging stuff, but I just was like, I need an avenue to keep my frustration out, and I blogged about Alabama politics, and it got a little bit of attention. And then
What sort of attention?
Raw search results for our gubernatorial race or something like that.
Oh, cool.
And so just straight up search results, and you see the stats go up for the first time. And when I say attention, I mean I probably had 100 page views that day instead of 3. Yeah. And it was people.
That's exciting though, right?
It was
that's
super exciting.
Yeah.
And similar to emailing Ryan about WP Candy and just saying, hey, I'll write stuff for you. I mean, I had a little bit of a writing bug here. Yeah. So there was a local political blog that was amazing called Political Parlor. Yeah. And it was on this old school WordPress theme. And I actually wrote posts for him about Alabama elections. And it was a pretty well-known site in Alabama politics, and local congressmen and stuff would read his site. And I was writing these kind of campaign updates, what people were doing. I compared the gubernatorial candidates, things like that. I don't know why I did all this. It's just.
Did you make any money on it, or?
No. So
it was just for the fun of it.
Yeah, just for the fun of it. Same with Ryan. Ryan offered to pay me several times, I'm sure, but I never wanted money for those types of things. This was a side job, or a side hobby. It wasn't.
And you were your day job was being an engineer.
Yeah, I was an engineer, and this was for fun.
So now, Post Status is a major departure from this idea of not making any money, just writing to write.
Let's make all the money.
And to make all the money, right? And if people look at Post Status, they see that Post Status has seen this meteoric rise in popularity as a boutique news site for WordPress. Right? So, a couple questions. Why did you decide to do the for-profit thing for Post Status, and what was the genesis of that idea?
Sure. So, I did what I was talking about for probably 2 years. Wrote on WP Candy, probably 130 blog posts over a 2-year period. So every week or so. And then I started Post Status because now decided once again idled a bit, and Ryan had some other things he was moving on to. So I was working full time as a developer by this point, and still had this weird inner need to write about WordPress. Okay. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start my own thing, and I'm going to change the format a little bit. It's going to be more like a link blog style thing. And I was able to share more that way, more links and less long form. But I was still able to distribute what I thought was valuable things that other people should read. So it had a small readership in that format. And then WP Daily, if you remember, came and went. Kind of flash in the pan, very hot and then cold type of moment. And when they went cold was around when I was redesigning, because I realized I can't limit my words to these small link format type of things, type of posts. So I transitioned Post Status, which was now about a year old, to more of a traditional WordPress news site where I was doing more long form, not just long form, but more long form stuff, trying to go in depth, trying to go deeper, and get beyond just the 3-paragraph news item type of stuff and do more analysis. Because I was working on that redesign at the same time that WP Daily went kaput, I saw that happened. They put up the splash page, gone. And then I was like, I got to redesign tonight. And at the same time, I had Drew Stroney from the Theme Foundry contact me and say, hey man, I love what you're doing. I want to figure out some way to support what you're doing. And he offered to advertise on the site. So we struck a deal where he just gave me a monthly amount of money for a year. And it was, several $100s that, helped cover costs and what was becoming a significant time investment, where I was enjoying, but also, felt like I need to keep this resource up because a personal need, but also I felt like it was helpful in the community. So I had to make a decision of, do I want to go all in on what I'm doing at Range, or do I want to take a chance, and is it possible to monetize Post Status in a way that someone can make a living off of it? Nobody was doing that with WordPress News unless they were sponsored by a company or some type of backer. And I thought that there was a real way to do it. So I made a tough decision. Leave people that you enjoy working with. But I left Range and decided to take a month and rebuild Post Status to be a subscription format. And that's when I went full time. So it was exhilarating. It was the first time I ever worked for myself. A lot of people in our space, they've been freelancing off and on ever since they got out of school, and they don't know a different life. But for me, full-time employment was stability. And I was saying, not only am I going to go to self-employment, but I'm also going to go with a completely untested business model that makes very little sense. And in a super niche environment like WordPress News.
So it has been successful, and you've been very open about showing the financials and showing exactly what goes into it, and the costs and the subscriptions, and who supported you, and I think that's really cool. Something that you haven't been super open about is, and you actually haven't mentioned this at all during our conversation, and that is WP Tavern. Now, many would regard WP Tavern and Post Status as the two most well-known news sources, industry news sources for WordPress. How do you distinguish Post Status from WP Tavern?
Post Status I consider geared more towards WordPress professionals. So people that make their living in some form or fashion where WordPress is a primary tool. I want to provide content to people that are making their living with WordPress in some form or fashion. It's going to be valuable. So it tends to be more business focused, tends to be more analysis driven, what this means to you and your profession. And WP Tavern tends to be more user focused and tries to fit the 80% rule, interesting to 80% of people out there. And I don't really want to target 80% of the WordPress users out there. I'd much rather target the probably far less than 20%, but
So is Automatic or any member company of Automatic a significant investor in Post Status?
No, I have no investors. So I own 100% of the company. The only monetary input is I have 12 partners, and the first year, each of those 12, they're all invited. In the first year, I think 2 of the 12 that I invited said no, so out of 14 total, I got 12, but I was limiting it to 12, so then I brought 2 more on. Then I had 2 that didn't renew for the second year, and so now I've got 2 more. So total, I've had 14 people that have been partners. The first year, they paid $2,500 a piece, so that's $30,000. And then the second year, the new partners pay $3,000, and the others got paid $2,500. So that's the biggest single investments is, you know, $2,500 or $3,000 from partners, and I have 12 partners because I cover those people as well. They're part of the news and they're funding the news.
Yeah.
But if I make one of them angry, it's one of 12. And if they say like, or try to get some sort of editorial oversight, then I don't have to care because someone else can take that place, and I can just, you know, segregate myself from them.
Right.
And you know, fortunately, I haven't had to do that. But Automatic owns Woo Themes, and before the Woo Themes acquisition, Woo Themes was one of the partners, and they still are.
Yeah.
So technically, Automatic sponsors Post Status.
Nice. What was the most significant lesson that you learned as you built Post Status?
I screw stuff up all the time, and I have done so since I launched it.
Yeah.
I would say one of the biggest lessons I learned was promising something that I wanted to do, but I had not yet been able to do, and then setting an expectation that that should exist.
Gotcha.
The one that people love to give me a hard time about now is the job board, because I've been saying that there's going to be a job board for about a year, but it's not launched yet.
Do we know when that's going to launch?
I mean, I don't have my watch on. Soon.
Okay.
So it is finally going to launch, but you know, promising something like that, it's not great for your credibility, and also you just want to be able to deliver that to your customers as a resource. Another promise that I made that I haven't done very well on is properly categorizing resources to be more evergreen. So a lot of my content is topical and event driven, and one of the things that I say you get with Post Status is more evergreen resources, except for it's not very well categorized to pull those evergreen resources forward, so that as new people join, those more evergreen resources are actually available to easily find for them.
Gotcha.
Like obviously they can go to the archives, but they're not as easy to find.
So separating that out.
Separating that out. But there's a lot of things I screw up, and I screw up daily.
So if you could use 1 to 2 sentences to give a piece of advice to the thousands and thousands of people listening to this video, what is the advice that you would give?
I would advise people, whether they're well into their career or not, to take it slow and work hard, but don't work too much. And let those small accomplishments add up, and over the years they'll become a big accomplishment.
Cool. I like it.
Did that make any sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It did. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. That's all we got. So yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To you at home. I hope you're having some Prosecco right now.
To you.